ndio wakastop.
The alleged cases of abuse are said to have been part of an attempt by police to quell mild protests in pockets of the country a few days after the election, when opposition leader Raila Odinga alleged that the Electoral Commission's systems had been hacked and manipulated in favor of President-elect Uhuru Kenyatta. Odinga is challenging the election results at the Supreme Court. The verdict is due by September the 1st. Trix Ingado, KTN News.
Well, and the police service seems to be on the receiving end in that particular report there by Human Rights Watch Group. Getting into that discussion now, joined in studio is joined by Richard Tuta, who is a security analyst. Richard, this is a conversation we've had since when the results were announced and there were protests, pockets of protests here and there. The IPOA has also come in, but do you see hope that justice would be served on those who are seeking for it?
You see, that begs the question of what is justice, because justice relies so much on the truth. Who is going to provide this truth? Who is going to provide these facts? Because the moment, normally what happens, the moment a scene of any nature of crime has been contaminated, sometimes it will always be difficult to try and figure out exactly who did it. Because as it is today, you will hear members of the public alleging that it is the police who did it. But where is the evidence? The question here is, where is the evidence beyond any reasonable doubt? Because remember, Akisa, as it is today, it is normally it is a requirement of any state that it is the state which should monopolize instrument of violence. Yeah. And when I talk about instrument of violence, I mean things to do with guns and all that. But as it is today in this country, it is no longer a monopoly of the police. Even individuals have got guns. Individuals have got high caliber guns, so that you cannot exactly say whether this gunshot is as a result of a police officer or is it as a result of criminals. Yes.
But that is an argument that we've also seen from the police service saying that it's criminals who are shooting randomly at those who have the... But of course we have also Kenyans there who are saying that no, personally I was attacked by a police officer, I was beaten up, my daughter was beaten up by a police officer. And then that brings us to the question of how far or what is too much force?
As it is today in law, you see the challenging issue here is that it is not anchored in a situation that you can say that just the way you measure temperature and you say that if it is 30 degrees or 40 degrees and all that. This depends on the perspective of the police officer himself vis-a-vis the public. The public will always say that the police used excessive force. The police will always say that they used limited force. And that's why I've always said that the only person or the only institution with the expressive mandate to put this matter to rest is the court.
Quickly, I would
no one else.
I would want us to take a break, but what is excessive force? What is limited force? How do you decide that a protest is mild or a protest is excessive?
It depends on the degree of proportionality. Like, for instance, you have always had people talking of responding to a mosquito bite with a hammer. If you respond to a mosquito bite with a hammer, then that is a case of excessive force. Like, for instance, if the point of shooting a demonstrator is at the back, not from the front, then that one can also be looked at as a case of using excessive force. So these are issues that no civilian, you cannot entrust it to the civilians, you cannot entrust it to the police. You can only entrust it to an independent body, which is the court. Yes.
All right, and when we come back, I would want us to talk about the anxieties that is there with the Supreme Court ruling and some of the measures that really should be put in place. Richard Tuta is a security analyst. We'll be coming back with that conversation here on Kivumbi 2017. Don't go too far.
This is KTN News.
So Safaricom ina reward wale customers wanatumia Flex bundles with 3 free Flex units for sending any amount above 100 shillings to another number with M-Pesa.
Mawaidha ya biashara yanaletwa kwako na Safaricom Flex.
Dial *100# or *200# to join Flex today. Switch to Flex. Get more, use everything.
Hivyo basi simama hapo hapo tulipo na usisonge, usijaribu kwenda popote. Kilicho mkononi weka chini mara moja. Kama wanavyosema, siku za mwizi ni 40. Nilichokupangia na kuambia hutasahau maishani. Uko tayari? Of course. Twende kazi.
Kuchesha sauti amenifanya na misitu, mwambia siogope, Ali ni kipenzi cha watu, tafanya pati nyumbani, hiyo yote kwa ajili yake, tena sije peke yake, siogope.
Ukisikiliza Radio Maisha, kila mtu atakuunga.
Hiyo yote kwa ajili yake.
Usiku na mchana kwa vipindi bomba, mziki wa kisasa wa Kiafrika na habari za kuaminika. Hii ndio radio bora nchini, Radio Maisha. Tuko mbele pamoja.
Sisi kama Bodi Kenya ni kama yule msichana ambaye ni mrembo kweli kweli. Na msichana akiwa mrembo hatafuti wanaume. Wanaume ndio wanaenda kumtafuta. Kwa hivyo vile vyama ambavyo vinataka vifanye kazi na Bodi Kenya, vijue ya kwamba sisi ni mrembo, waje watutafute. Na wakija kututafuta wanatakana wajue chama kiko na viongozi.
This is KTN News.
You're watching Kivumbi 2017. Glad you could join us. Let's continue the conversation here with Richard Tuta, who's a security analyst. Let's now take a look at what really is happening in the country right now. The hearings have been concluded. The judges have retreated to go and make their decision. But there's the sense of anxiety on whatever ruling would come out. Should there be any security concerns?
Yeah, you see, this is an issue. Let the judges do their work. Let those who are in charge of securing the state to do their work. Let those who are in charge of giving spiritual guidance, the churches and all that, let them come in and do their work after the ruling will have been made on Friday. Let the councillors come in and do their work. But let the Supreme Court not be held at ransom that if we give this ruling, then this may happen.
Yeah.
So that let them not be compromised by anything or by anyone. Yes.
But looking at whichever way the ruling goes, as compared to the scenes that were witnessed after the announcement of results by Wafula Chebukati, the IEBC chairperson, what really are some of the things that should be put in place to avoid the eventualities we saw after the announcement of results in the event the results don't go in a way a particular people would want it to go?
You see, what is important, first of all, is the most important thing is to prevent it from going any other way, or to prevent it from escalating to a bigger monster that might be very hard for even for any security agency to handle. And the best way to prevent it is by for instance, enhancing the deterrent systems. Maybe to identify, like for instance, the way they had mapped out the country the last time. But my only worry has always been that the moment we map out some countries and consider them to be hotspots, sometimes it is counterproductive to the security situations in this country, so that some people tend to think that they are being blacklisted for particular purpose. So the best thing is to try and use what I normally say, yes, where should there be a fox and where should there be a lion? Because the fact that something has happened before and there are insecurity is not a justification that it will happen again. The only problem is that politicizing national security. Because behind all this, what has been happening is that there are people who stand to benefit, both in government and outside the government. At the end of the day, there will be always some people somewhere who tend to benefit out of the Supreme Court ruling on Friday. Yes.
But your own assessment of the electoral period, pre, during, and post, your analysis of the security situation in the country during this electoral period?
I will say it was manageable.